I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hello and welcome to Mountain Patriot Homestead. Today is installment number 3 of Old Days, Old Ways. And today we are talking about education back in the mid-1960s to mid-1970s. Now, as I have done in the previous videos, most of this is based on my own personal experience, and so anything else will be generalizations. Your experience, if you lived back during that time period, may be totally different. If it is, let me know in the comments. And if you're not old enough to remember these days, welcome to the history lesson, because that's kind of what this is. It's we're looking back at how things were. Now, when I started school, the school day started with the Pledge of Allegiance, and that was every morning the class stood, put your hand over your heart, and you recited the Pledge of Allegiance. Of course, that's because I was in the United States, and you know, if you're from another country, it may have been different from you, for you, not from you. But that was the way we started every morning, as the whole class stood and we recited the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, I don't know if schools still do that or not. Not judging if they do or don't or what they do. As a matter of fact, today I'm not going to be discussing any of the current education system things going on, because I know a lot of that is controversial depending on where you're at and what's going on. I'm not going to talk about that. This is all looking back at how things were for us. So, the very first thing was the curriculum. Our curriculum back then was quite a bit different, and by quite a bit, I don't guess it's totally changed, but there was a strong emphasis on reading, writing, and arithmetic. And of course, history was thrown in there, and you know, all of your other subjects, but your core curriculum that you covered was reading, writing, and arithmetic, because that was deemed the most important to advance us. And you have to remember, back then we didn't have computers. We didn't use calculators. Everything was done with paper and pencils and that sort of thing. So it wasn't like we were able to, hey, what happened in 1776? Let's Google it. There was no such animal. So things were learned by rote. In other words, 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. You learned by repeating and memorizing. That was the way a lot of education was done, by memorization. Some of that stuff stuck, some of that stuff didn't. History. A lot of history was memorizing dates that things happened. That's great. But for me, I liked history, but I liked really learning about the people themselves and what they done and why they were doing it. And so just memorizing dates and what happened on that day really wasn't that interesting to me. In fact, I like history better today while I do genealogy, because I can put relatives, ancestors in certain places and certain events, and that makes it come alive for me. That makes it interesting. But back then, a lot of the curriculum was taught by a teacher standing at the front of the classroom and telling you, lecturing about whatever topic you were covering, and then you were expected to regurgitate the information that you were taught. Now, classroom discipline was it was a whole lot more strict, I believe, than it is now. I don't know because I don't frequent classrooms, so I really don't know. But I do know that when I was going to school, there was corporal punishment. You could get yanked up and get your britches worn out and then finish out the school day, and nobody thought that much about it because that's what happened. School bus drivers could also do the same thing. So there wasn't a whole lot of acting up tolerated, but everybody, you just didn't get, you didn't instantly get whoopings for everything. There was a lot of other punishments that took place that now I don't know if they would be accepted or not because, we're kind of a kinder, gentler society, I guess. I don't know, but I know, you may be standing in the corner. You maybe have a circle drawn on the board with your nose stuck in that circle, and you had to stand there for however long. The one that I had to do, I never got a whooping in school because I knew that if I got a whooping at school, I was going to get two of them when I got home. So I didn't get whoopings at school. But I did. Can you believe I used to like to talk? And I several times had to write, "I will not talk in class. I will not talk in class," and have to do that 100 times or however many times the teacher said you had to write whatever it was. You had to repeat it. I had to do that several times till the last time I had to do it. And my daddy said, if you bring home a piece of paper and you have to write a bunch of stuff and waste paper one more time, I'm going to tan your britches. I didn't do it no more because I knew my daddy didn't bluff. My daddy rarely whooped me. Usually if I got a whooping, it was from mama. But I do recall the very few times my daddy got a hold of me because I was Big Daddy's girl, so I didn't like to even have daddy upset at me. But I knew if daddy got a hold of my britches, I was going to remember it. So I didn't get in trouble where I had to write sentences anymore. But that was just, just some of the examples. Sometimes it was you had to sit out at recess. You couldn't play. You had to sit down at recess. Oh, that was a horrible punishment. Most kids, we'd rather get whoopings that have to sit out at recess because, that was like that was the social function for the day. I know that I've heard several with younger children now that say that they don't really have a recess like we had recess. They have more of PT. Well, to me, what fun is that? So we had recess, and I don't know if y'all are old enough, if you had recess, if y'all remember recess was like the daily social event. That's where you caught up on everything that was going on, but it was also, that's where you got the majority of your exercise for the day because there wasn't, you had some of the kids that would just sit around and wouldn't really do anything, but in my group, I had pretty much everybody that was my age that was kinfolk was boys. All my cousins my age were boys. And then all my best friends in my play group were boys. And so we played war and we played cowboys and Indians and we played, we always had a stick and it was a gun or it was a bow and arrows and it was, it was creative play going on because we had a whole role play movie going on, and whenever it would stop tomorrow we'd take up from where we left off. But we had monkey bars. Do y'all remember, if you're old enough, you remember monkey bars. If you're not old enough, surely you've seen pictures of monkey bars where I don't know if they even allow them on playgrounds anymore. But I know, monkey bars, that was kind of like when you got old enough that you could play on the monkey bars, that was a big thing because, you'd climb on top and you'd dare each other to jump off and to swing off and to, cut flips and see who could go the furthest just hanging on by your hands. And, that was a big deal. But I don't even know if they do monkey bars anymore. And how many of you remember the slides at school? They were big old tall metal slides. They weren't plastic. There wasn't like, some cushioning sand at the bottom. It was usually either old hard dirt that had been packed from way too many backsides hitting it, or they'd put rock out. So I don't know, so you wouldn't tear up the dirt. I don't know. I'm not sure why sometimes there was rock at the bottom. But them old hot metal slides, when it heated up and you'd go down through there, if you had shorts on or a skirt or anything, well, sometimes even your regular breeches, you'd slide down through there. It was hot enough, you felt like you had blisters on your backside when you got down to the bottom, but that didn't stop us. And the swings, we would swing and see who could get the highest, because what we were trying to do, which we look back at it, or I look back at it now and go, we just didn't have good sense. But we was trying to swing high enough that when we got up high enough, we were trying to make it where you would actually flip over the top. I never accomplished that. I've swung really high that I thought I was going over, but then the chain would catch and I would get, and it's like, oh. But yeah, I remember doing that craziness, and I remember getting it as far up as you could go and then jumping and seeing how far out, who could jump the furthest. I don't know how we didn't end up killing ourselves. And nowadays kids wear bicycle helmets with with their bicycles. We apparently didn't have good sense because we were jumping off things when we were 30 foot up in the air. So, it's funny when we look back, because even the teachers didn't pay any attention to it. It was kids being kids, and they'll be fine and they'll bounce. But one thing was, going back to the discipline. Discipline was strictly enforced. There was no playing around. You didn't sass. You didn't backtalk. You sassed, backtalked, or acted ugly. I don't remember there being any detention whenever in elementary. Now, I remember once I got on up in high school, they had detention. Never went to it because there again, I was more scared of mama than I was anybody else. But the discipline was strictly enforced, but we were taught the respect, even if you didn't agree with your teachers or there was something, that, okay, that don't sound right. We were still respectful because that was the way we were taught. And so you were just expected to follow the rules. Now, for some people that might be, oh, well, that's not a good thing that you just blindly follow rules. No, it's not. But we also had the teaching at home that taught you the morality and the things that go along, so you just didn't blindly follow authority. And you did know that if something happened, you could go tell another adult, a parent, something to that effect. So that was a little bit different, I guess, because I don't know how much discipline goes on in a classroom anymore. I don't know. I do know that when I used to teach DARE at schools, and I would go into schools, I noticed throughout the years when I first started teaching DARE in schools, I never had a problem with a kid, but it seemed like the longer that it went on, the more discipline issues that I was having in the classrooms. And of course, I was a guest instructor, so I didn't deal with the discipline, but I noticed neither were some of the teachers. And so some of the teachers were excellent and were right on it, and then others are kind of like, well, I'm going to go to the break room. So I really don't know how discipline's faced anymore, but that's just the difference in schools. Now, another big difference that I know from now to back then is, especially now, of course, we're not talking once I got them at the high school because that's past the time period that I'm covering. But back in the 60s and 70s, it was just like it was when I graduated in the 80s, is there were guns in vehicles at school. That was not, I mean, nobody even questioned it. There was no question that, there was guns in the gun racks in the back of the pickup trucks. I mean, it was nothing, nobody thought anything about it. And, where now that's a huge no-no. But, different time, different era, not error. I should have paid more attention in school, huh? Technology was a lot different. Computers, I've already talked about technology back then, but computers were not even heard of when I was in elementary school. We wouldn't even know what a computer was. But I'm sitting here thinking, we didn't have dry erase boards when I was in elementary. We had those old black chalkboards with, the teacher got up, and we thought it was fancy if the teacher brought out the colored chalk, because normally it was that white chalk, and she'd get up there and I say she, sometimes it was he, would get up there and write on the chalkboard, and then, they'd erase it and things like that, and then every once in a while, one or two kids would get chosen to go outside and knock the dust out of the erasers. Well, the children chosen were those that had done exceptional work or had been good or was the teacher's pet or whatever. And so, we all kind of hoped we would get picked to go outside and knock the dust out of those erasers, which, there's no telling what type of lung issues we got because of, knocking dust out of the erasers. But, that was a big thing for us. We thought that was something big. So, technology was very simple. Just learning to write. The Big Chief tablets with the big wide lines. You had the two solid lines, and then right in the middle of those were the little dotted lines. And we had to practice our handwriting. Handwriting was very important. But I remember as a little bitty kid, so I didn't start school. They didn't have kindergarten where I started school. I started school in the first grade. And we had to write with pencils. I swear, if they were like this big array, they were huge. It was like if I was trying to write today with a baseball bat. And you've got these little tiny hands trying to hold these great big pencils and try to write a letter that's actually legible. I never did figure that out. Even as an adult, I don't understand, why did we want them to have great big giant pencils? I don't know, but that's what we learned to write with. And handwriting, that we actually had a class for handwriting. I don't know if they do that anymore. There's so much computer classes and things now that I don't know if they even have classes on handwriting. Do they? Does anybody know? Do they have handwriting classes? I don't know. I do know that I have never had wonderful handwriting, but I would try so hard. But, that's something that has me curious. Are there still handwriting classes in school? I don't know. Some places there was dress codes. Now, I remember back when my mama went to school, I remember her telling me the girls had to wear dresses, and the boys, they had to dress a certain way. Well, when I went to school, there was a dress code. Once we got up into junior high and high school, there was more of a dress code because, girls couldn't wear skirts more than so short, and boys had to wear their shirts tucked in with belts, and hair had to be, the boys' hair had to be a certain length and no facial hair and all that. But in elementary, I don't remember there being that much dress code, but there really wasn't the girls didn't have to wear dresses when I went to school, but there wasn't such things as shorts or whatever whenever I went to school. Most of us wore hand-me-downs, so, it was kind of like, what did my older cousin have that could be passed down to me? So, we didn't really have a dress code that affected us much. Sorry, it's about to get annoying because I've got a scaredy cat dog that hears the thunderstorms starting to come in. So anyway, she may be on my head here in a minute. I'm sorry, I have to look down here at my notes. I got distracted. I know, baby, I know. The way that we got to school, it's okay. It's all right. The way we got to school was almost always by school bus. About the only way that I ever went to school any other way in elementary was if we spent the night at somebody's house and maybe their mama drove us to school. But pretty much my entire 12 years of school, I was riding the school bus. So I know there were some of the kids that lived closer to the schools and they rode their bicycles, and some of them were close enough they walked through the woods to the school and that sort of thing. So it really wasn't that big. The getting to school part hasn't changed just a whole lot because kids still, the yellow school bus still drives past our down our road every day, so that hasn't changed much. But there is a lot with schools that I'm sure have changed. A lot of things that are accepted now in school that would not have been acceptable back then, both in children's behavior, adults' behavior, a lot of different things like that. But I'll look back at my elementary school days and just smile because it was good days. Getting to be with your friends, but we switched. My daddy was a carpenter, and so we moved around quite a bit. And I went to school, my first grade year, I went to school at one school. In my second grade year, I went to two different schools in my second grade year. But then my third, fourth, and fifth grade, I went back to my same school that I'd went to school in first grade. So I had all my old friends and, just had a good time with them. Then we moved to Texas in my sixth grade year. And so made new friends there. I'm going to have to cut this video short. You're not going to be able to hear me over the huffing if I don't, and I'll get her taken care of. But I'm glad y'all came today, and hope you're enjoying these videos. Let me know if you are, and I'll continue. And I love y'all, and I do hope you come back and have a wonderful afternoon. Mountain Patriot Homestead, signing out.